Welcome to English Podcasts, videos, podcasts and quizzes.
Visit our website at english-podcast.com
And subscribe to our YouTube channel for more learning content and free giveaways.
So, hello, Susan.
Hi Chris, hi, how are you?
I'm fine. So, what we're going to be talking about today is some of the problems that learners have with learning English.
Yes, and what do you think are the usual questions people ask us?
Well, I think that they're not so many the questions, but I think the biggest problem that people have learning English is with listening.
Very true.
I think it stems a lot from two things. One is that people don't tend to listen enough. I'm not talking about volume of listening, but actual regularity, rhythm of listening. And the other is that they tend to have bad objectives when they're listening. I often tell my learners that you may never, ever, ever, ever understand this particular thing that we're going to listen to, but you don't need to. And I suggest that people have a bit of a weird objective, a bit of a strange objective, a bit of an off-the-wall objective. That is, they should say to themselves straight away, I don't want to understand. So anything that they do understand is actually a bonus. And they need to get some sort of enjoyment out of listening, because they have to listen every day. The more you listen, as soon as the ear works, everything works. But people don't do that. And they tend to, and even after I speak about this, I will play them something to listen to. It could be a video, it could be a podcast. Excellent podcasts on English-podcast.com, by the way.
Absolutely.
And so I will say to them, first of all, get your objective right. Your first objective is not to listen, and then we elaborate the objectives. And then I'll play them something, and I'll say, tell me about it. And they'll say, I didn't understand.
That's right. I often hear the same story. I didn't understand anything.
Yeah.
Now that is simply not true.
Of course it's not.
It's simply not true. And I absolutely agree with you. When you're learning a new language, you have to be a bit more realistic in your expectations and think, I'm not going to understand half, I'm not going to understand 25%, but as you say, train your ear and practice is the key to that.
Yeah, well, I always go back to this thing, is that I ask people how they learn their own language, and it's not really a question they ask themselves, because it seems to be such a natural process and something so normal that people don't even question it. But if you think about it, the way we learn our own language, first of all, we listen all the time. We're always listening. We cannot understand anything, but you don't see many stressed out babies or toddlers. Then we start sort of picking up some things, and then we imitate. Adults have a big problem with imitating stuff, which is probably a good idea that they listen to music and they can sing it back. So in a way, they're imitating in some way, because they don't know all of the words. So they sort of la 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 go through it. And then they will sort of understand one or two words. And then the next sort of step in language learning is that they will start speaking some words. And then the next step is they will start reading some words. And the final step is they will start writing. The problem with adult language learners is that they often start with writing, and even worse in France is translating. So not only do they have a sort of reliance on something in their own language. I mean, it's good to have a reference, sure, but I mean, I often see people when they're note taking, they will write the sentence or the words in French. Now, I will test them after a session. Test is a big word, but I'll say to them, what is this? And they can't remember it, but they know it in French, and it always comes back to them in French. We are being visited by mosquitoes. Excuse me while I get the mosquito spray.
But I was going to say, I think it's you really put your finger on it when you said some words. Action here with a mosquito. Some words, because children, when they're learning the language, they actually learn some words, whereas adults, we want to come out with a full sentence straight away. And I do think that's difficult for adult learners, that they've got to learn in the first sense to reduce the words they're using, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Especially French people, as we know, they have this love of the language, Voltaire, all very long sentences. And then they get very, very frustrated when they've got to come out with some words.
I think that's what sort of one of the sort of the key words in language learning is frustration. But you're going to be frustrated, so you need to learn to deal with it in some way. You know, you can't be sort of correct all the time, and
Absolutely.
you know, you either get it correct or you learn. You know,
Yes.
that's it. You know, there's no sort of losing type of side of it. But I think what people tend to not really focus on is actually enjoying stuff.
Yes.
You know, I remember a few years ago, it was impossible to, well, not impossible, but very hard to get materials. Today, materials are everywhere. You know, you have YouTube, you have internet, you have chat, GPT, and you know Google Bard or whatever. So there's lots and lots of things available. However, there's been no sort of revolutionary change in language acquisition or whatever. So what people are doing is they've not got a good strategy for learning. I think what they need to do is to think of it as a joined up process. That is, they've got to go from where they are now into something else. It's not like, I've done that, you know, it actually can be used many, many, many times, you know. And, you know, if I think about listening, for example, I say to people, you don't want to understand, but, you know, what we're going to do. We want to understand something.
Yes.
But you know what they're talking about, and what you said is correct. They say I understood nothing, which is totally false. So we start going on this sort of precept: is what did you understand?
Yeah.
They say nothing. So okay, how many people are there?
Yeah.
And they can tell you where are the people.
Exactly.
Very often they can tell if it's a video, it's easy.
Yes.
But they can often on an audio piece, they can also say, well, they were in such and such. And say, well, how do you know that? They say, oh, I can hear this, you know, it's a football stadium or whatever. It's in a bar, it's in a cafe, in a restaurant. They know because of the background sound. So this going from this idea of I understand nothing. So what you've got to do is find these little bits and build on them. People very often they think this is too infantile, but what we're talking about is actually a process.
Yes.
You need to learn how to listen. You listen in your own language, and in fact, a lot of people. French people that I know, when they listen to some stuff in French, it can be a song or whatever, you say to them, what was that about? And they say, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're not worried at all.
No.
They're not worried that they didn't understand every single thing because they understand enough. However, they can't transpose this into English unless they're sort of trained to do that. And, you know, this is what we're supposed to be doing, is helping them with that. And I think that a lot of English learning is based on this, you got it right, you got it wrong type of thing. And I don't think that really
Absolutely.
helps people, not in their motivation,
No.
not in their, you know, I remember I was on holiday sometime, well, this year, in fact, in June, in Corfu, and there was a guy in the sea, nobody else on the beach, and I was looking for this hidden beach bar, or the secret place, funnily enough, and this guy was in the sea, and I said to him, do you speak English? So I don't speak Greek. And he said, no, I'm French, but I don't speak any English. I said, okay, what do you know this beach bar? He says, oh, yes, you just go up the beach about 200 meters, you turn right. It's really good. I think it's closed now, but it'll be open to. And it's like, you told me you didn't speak English, you know?
Yeah.
And he was fine. And I didn't let on to him until the end that I spoke French.
Yes.
And that was quite funny.
It's, people are always, they always think that their, as they say, their level
Yeah.
is lower than it really is.
Yeah.
In fact, it's always higher
Generally, it is.
than
Yeah.
they think.
Generally, it is. They have a lot of baggage, a lot
Yeah.
of linguistic baggage.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of French people who often they say, I speak bad English or whatever, you know. This doesn't seem to be a problem. I've just come back from Marseille where there was some World Cup, Rugby World Cup matches, and there was loads of English and South Africans. Now, I don't think, you know, out of all of them, many of them spoke French. I didn't hear anybody who spoke French, but they weren't bothered at all. Whereas if you go to England, the French guy will apologise, first of all, I don't speak very good English.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. That's true.
It's
Yeah.
it's not a great sort of starting point.
No.
But I'm finding at the moment as well that people are having problems, even people with what you could call a decent level. Oh yeah, just to go back to that, very often I hear people and I say, what level do you need to be for your job? And very often they say, I need to be fluent. And
Which is not
unfortunately,
true.
well, it's not true for one, but it's also impossible,
Yeah.
being as the sort of the age for fluency is about 14 limit, and most of the people are a lot older than 14. In fact, all of them are. But there you go.
Yeah.
And to break this to them that you will never ever be fluent,
Yes.
but it doesn't matter
No.
because you don't need to be.
Yeah.
It's quite
Yeah.
fun actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, so going back to this idea, at the moment, I'm finding a lot of people are working with Indian companies, whether it's in aeronautics or engineering or IT, and they're having massive problems understanding Indian people.
Yes, I have this as well because I work in the same types of companies, and I hear this all the time. And I was wondering why, in fact, people seem more comfortable with the British accent or the American accent, but they have a lot of difficulty with the Indian accent. Why do you think that is?
Can I throw it back to you? Why do you think
Well,
that?
okay, well, I think it's because I've seen this change over the years when I've been doing this, and the people didn't feel comfortable with American accents.
Yes.
And then I have to say, with, as you mentioned earlier, Netflix, YouTube, people are becoming more accustomed to hearing the American accent.
Yeah.
Whereas, they watch a series on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, and if they're getting the enjoyment from it, they like that accent, they listen to it, don't understand everything, but hey, go with it. But I don't think there are many opportunities to be exposed to the Indian accent in a social situation or just relaxing on
There's
TV.
Bollywood.
There is Bollywood, but I don't think many people watch it outside India for their pleasure. They prefer an American series, but they only hear the Indian accent in a kind of stressful work situation where the sound might be bad. It's on a video call, and I think that's for me. I think that's why they, at the moment, they can't really get the Indian accent.
Yeah.
It's only an accent like any other.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is a sort of a confession, is that I have a problem with Indian accents as well. Just before COVID, I was working in India a couple of times, and whenever I came to the airport, I knew what they were going to ask me for. But every time they asked me, I was thrown because I was trying to understand what they were saying rather than the actual function of what they were saying. They're asking me for my passport and my visa. They would have maybe asked me, am I there for pleasure or for work? Maybe tourism, work is a pleasure necessarily. But anyway, no. And I always had a problem. And I remember a couple of times going into Bangalore airport and the guy would ask me something and then he would say, oh, just go over there. And someone would ask me exactly the same, at the same speed. This is what I hear a lot of people saying about English people as well. However, maybe I should have practiced what I preached and maybe I should have asked them to, can you repeat slowly? But I'm not sure they would. But,
But that's a very, very good point because sometimes I'm also thrown by the Indian accent because I'm quite used to the British accent, of course, American accent, and I don't have a lot of exposure to an Indian accent. I have to admit.
Well, I'm not sure whether it's the accent or speed. They speak, for me, they speak very, very fast. And, even working, because I worked a lot with Indians, as you know, even working with Indians, I still found it a bit of a challenge. I still needed sort of every morning a bit of a warm up to actually understand these guys. And I found as well, and this is true of anybody, is whenever there was any emotion, whether angry or excited or happy, it became even more difficult.
Yes.
And I used to go, away from the days working with Indians, which I was supposed to be working in English, totally.
In fact, we have a podcast which I did with a great Indian guy in a company I was working. It was the first time he'd seen snow.
Huh?
he was very, very, very excited about this.
Mm.
And I literally couldn't get a word in. He was speaking, whoa, la, la, la. So maybe you're right, it's the speed. It's the speed. But I'm going to turn it around a bit. We have difficulty maybe catching what they say. Do you think they have difficulty catching what we say?
Maybe. Because don't forget, English rather, is one of the official languages. And in each state, there's a different language, and there could be 3 or 4 different languages in each state. So it's not necessarily Hindi that they're speaking. But they might do. But I think they also have a lot of access to news channels.
Yes.
I think they have a lot of access to films. I'm not sure whether maybe some of the Bollywoods in England. I'm not sure.
But in fact,
So I know they produce some in England now.
oh, did they know? Hollywood. But I'm going to give a bit of a plug to Netflix because I watch a series which I like a lot. It's called Indian Matchmaking.
Okay.
Have you heard of this, Chris?
Never.
And in fact, it's lovely. It's a lovely, lovely show. It's a dating show with matchmaker, with an auntie, of course, who's always trying to match the boys and the girls. And in fact, I do use this in my English lessons when people are having difficulty with the Indian accent.
Mhm.
I say to them, you've got to get used to it.
Mm.
You've got to get used to it. So I said, watch this lovely, charming show. It's not trash. It's it's nice trash, I suppose, but lovely. And you have to, I think, train your ear.
And has it improved? Has it helped you? Do you understand it better now?
Well, I do, but I have to say that people on Netflix, I think they speak reasonably clearly.
Yeah.
Although maybe I'm getting better at it, but they've got it's a totally different rhythm to our accent.
Yeah, very much.
And it's up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down.
You say so.
And
Do we have any questions that have come?
well, I don't
Do you want to
know.
have a look?
I'll
Because
have
we've
a
got
look.
Facebook Live. We're actually recording this to put on our.
I don't see any questions.
Okay, no questions. That's no problem.
Yeah, but
So-
maybe next time.
Anything to talk more on this, or do you want to wrap it?
Well, just a quick thing on
Yeah.
on the listening, because what I'm sure similar process to you. I always say to people, listen to one of our podcasts because they are pretty good, and I say, but listen at least 3 or 4 times, and then I say to them, to the people, give me the global picture, the big picture. They give me the small details, and I say to them, are there some sounds that you kind of half recognise, but you can't put your finger on what the word is? And this happens a lot. And they will say, yes, there was this particular sound. And it's words that if they were reading,
They
they
get.
would know.
Yeah.
So I say to them, that's why it's so important to listen.
Mm.
Because if it's like a with it, or something, and we go with it, and they say, oh, what's that word? And it's a real eye opener when they give me the list of sounds that they kind of half got.
Mm. The
And
funny
I
is,
show them the word, and they go, oh my goodness.
is if you're speaking English and you say something French, but keeping with the English or the English accent, and never understand that. Say, do you like croissants for breakfast? And they'll say, what? Have you ever been to Bordeaux?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Stuff like this.
Yeah.
And that's quite funny
Yes.
when they say,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, right, okay.
Yeah. But again, I think it's practice and experience, and that's why our philosophy is listen.
But yeah, I think I think what you've got to do, I always say there's a magic 15 minutes. Is that if every day, 7 days in a week, Monday through to Sunday, you listen for 15 minutes a day. For one, you cannot say I don't have 15 minutes. Get up a little bit earlier, go to bed a bit later, whatever. Break it up during the day, but have a plan.
Yeah.
If you've not got a continuation plan,
Yes.
that is, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. What is my objective for listening? I want to listen, for example,
Yes.
for voice changes. I want to
Yes.
listen for questions from intonation. I want intonation of what they say. I want to hear maybe emotions, and that's all I'm listening for. And funnily enough, the words actually come out afterwards.
Yes.
Whereas when they're trying to find the stuff, it just doesn't. They just get some sort of word blindness through their ears, whatever you call that.
Yeah.
There's a word for it, but I can't remember what it is, but it doesn't matter. But if there is, and I always recommend that people, while they're doing something mundane, like doing washing up or whatever, is to try and find something with a video, on TV or whatever, the news, because the news is always in
the loop.
bubble, in the loop, in the loop. So, if you miss it the first time, you can tune in on the hour, probably to find exactly the same stories with exactly, because it's recorded, I'm not going to do it every time. And then what I get them to do is to turn away from it. So they're just using their ears.
Yes.
And think like, how old is that person?
Yes.
Where are they? What are they doing? How are they dressed? But basically what you're trying to do is to deconcentrate from the words. Because as soon as you start concentrating on the word, you have this blindness, you just cannot hear it.
Yeah.
But we can maybe do another podcast at another time going into ways of fixing objectives.
Yes, I think that is such an important point because everybody wants to be fluent.
They won't be.
They won't be. And then they get
But it doesn't matter.
disappointed, frustrated, give it up.
I think it's their conception of fluency.
Yes.
I don't think they're actually saying they need to be fluent, but I think it's this conception of being able to speak fluidly and to understand enough of everyday stuff that you're not, wondering, oh, what the hell were they saying? But anyway, there you go.
There we go. Well,
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye, Facebook.
Okay. Then we're going to put this podcast on the YouTube or
But I've just put it on the normal one because we've got the video for YouTube here. Huh?
Yeah, okay.
Sure we can get this somehow.
Do that then. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you enjoyed our content
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at english-podcasts.com.